All right, everyone. Good morning. Thank you for joining me. We're going to do some breathing to get us started, and then we are going to do some tarot, and then I'm going to talk about the Venus retrograde. And yes, and just a reminder to anyone who's listening and to all of you who have joined me, thank you very much. Take care of whatever your needs are. Do whatever is, it's all invitation. It's not a have to. Everything is an invitation. So please do what is right for you. And if you have to leave early, not a problem. This will be recorded up to a point, and then I'll take questions when I stop the recording. So, okay, let's do some breathing. All right, first things first, find your way into the space where you are. And sometimes that may sound silly, but sometimes we're off thinking about other things, or we're further ahead in our day. So just coming back to right now, taking just a normal, natural breath, maybe giving yourself a little hug. Just thank yourself for being here. And now we're going to just drop our awareness deeper into the body. You might want to enter through your heart, wherever it feels comfortable, just dropping all the way down to your root. And then dropping your awareness down your legs, into your feet, feeling your feet. And whether you're inside or outside, just feeling that earth rising up to meet you. And from there, we're going to breathe in up through the soles of the feet. And we're going to exhale. Beautiful. And again, invitation, do what's right for you. Breathing in up through the soles of the feet. Filling your belly. Exhaling when you're ready. And if you want to join me in breathing, we're going to breathe in up through the soles of the feet. Filling your belly. And exhaling with a. And you can be more audible if you wish. Breathing in up through the soles of the feet, filling your belly. And if you'd like to join me all together in this one, breathing in up through the soles of your feet, filling your belly. Exhaling. Beautiful. Thank you. All right. And of course, if you need to and want to continue to breathe, tune me out and go ahead. It's all good. So I am ready to pull some cards. So we'll do that right now while we're in this space. And today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull one of the Medicine Woman Oracle cards. You saw those in the email that I sent out on Saturday. It's a new deck that I have, and I'm really, really, really enjoying the energy of it. So I want to share that with you, and we'll make this our anchor card today. So, and again, this deck is by Catherine Mallard, and it's illustrated by Caroline Munier. So thank you to them for their beautiful cards. So the first one, interesting, is the Coyote totem. So let me get it into focus for you. Again, art really speaks to me. I love art. And this is not a tarot card, obviously. It's an oracle card. And the coyote, this is an interesting, beautiful image. It says, show humor and laughter is your medicine. Show humor and laughter is your medicine. There's some other words around here that I can't quite make out. So we'll just have to let those go. They're in the artwork and I can't quite see them, but maybe when I take a picture and blow it up, I'll be able to see them better. So the coyote, I don't know if everyone has had coyote, like being around real coyotes, but my entire life being mostly on the West Coast, well, exclusively on the West Coast, except where I was born and my young years, coyotes were always everywhere. And yeah, Robin's right. There's a lot of the energy around coyote has been about the trickster. And one of the things that I thought about the other day, because the coyote came up in a different deck the other day for a client, is what is our relationship with change, shifting, humor? What does it mean to be the trickster? Is that like being the fool in a Shakespeare play? You know, is the trickster really the one with the wisdom? And so that's something I was thinking about, and I would invite all of us to think about. But, you know, right here, showing humor and laughter being the medicine, that certainly would fit with some other ideas about how are we taking our life too seriously? I mean, it's hard not to right now, right? It's like things are pretty serious, so let's be serious. But how can we blend the seriousness with light humor? I mean, if you're really grieving, and I know people are really grieving right now, then no, you don't need to laugh. You don't have to laugh. Don't laugh. You don't need to do that. And when the time is right, blending some of that, little bit of that light laughter, humor in might be very helpful in uplifting the heart. So that's where I'm going to go with that today. I don't know. You can go wherever you want to go. Utilize the coyote energy in whatever way feels right for you. So these medicine woman cards, they have really beautiful guidance and questions to ask and rituals to do. So you can imagine this one is a laughter ritual. And yeah, so there's more there. So just do what feels right for you. Okay, now I'm going to pull two of the Light Seer tarot cards. And we'll see how they relate, or they don't. We'll see how they relate or they don't relate, one way or the other. Okay, the first card is Ace of Wands, and I'll try to make this come in to focus for you. I love this card. I think it's so beautiful. And again, you know, I'm drawn to artwork. So first things first, what do you notice? What do you see? How do you feel when you see this card? And I do think it's interesting. Both of these so far, these cards are face cards, right? So like really being present with the being in front of you, or your inner being, depending on how you want to interpret this. So Ace of Wands. Wands is a creative suit. It's this element of fire. I think you probably figured that out. Okay. I think you got that one. Okay, so that's our second card. And then our last card today. Very different card. Very interesting read. Okay. This card has an interesting name. I don't pull this card very often. It's the Judgment card. To be clear, in traditional tarot, judgment does not mean, well, the traditional, it really does mean judgment. In some of the interpretations beyond very traditional tarot. It has some really interesting meanings that I am not sure what you're going to glean from the artwork. So I think it's really important to just, if the word triggers something, be aware, write that down. What is that triggering? I'm not a big fan of that word, but we do need to have what? Good judgment, right? So there is uses of the word that are important. But what is this image sharing with you? And another card just literally popped out. So I guess I'm going to be doing one more card after all. Let me just see if I can get that in view. I like that, Heather. Oh my gosh. Thank you. Tuning in with fierceness. Wow. Tuning in with fierceness to personal truth as it connects to spirit and source, twists and turns, questioning prior assumptions, going deeper into self-transformation. Wow, you could write a book. I love it. Upliftment, Nancy says. I love that. Yeah, so again, just what it feels for you. It's a very powerful card, very powerful card. Okay, well, one did pop out, so I am going to have to share that because you can't ignore them when they pop out. Another wands. This one is the 7 of Wands. So let's see if I want to get it. Here we go. There we go. 7 of Wands. That looks like a nice way to spend my day. Oh, I like trust and Sheena letting go of any judgment of myself. I love that. That's good. Thank you for those. Those are great. 7 of Wands. What do you see? What do you feel? Beautiful. I'm feeling it too. I like the image in this one. 7 of Wands doesn't always have an image quite like this. So I feel like this is a very, well, it is the Light Seers deck. So I imagine that's part of why it looks so fun to be in the 7 of Wands right about now. Right. So again, one of the things I like to do, with these cards is, can you imagine yourself in them? Can you imagine yourself in them? Oops. Yeah, there we go. So we have, a lot of energy started off with this card. So interesting, right? Lots and lots of energy happening today. Okay. Thank you, Brittany. Letting go of society's judgment. Let my inner child dance. Yay. I love that. I love your interpretations. I think y'all should write a book. It's a good idea. Seriously. This is why I think, for me, tarot's always been very personal. I told you all this story a million times, but I didn't know there were books that went along with the cards until I was in my 30s. I had no idea that there were books that explained the cards. I just used the cards and they told me what they told me, and that was that. And then when I met Vicki Noble in my 30s, I think I was 32 maybe. I met Vicki Noble, who's the Mother Peace creator, and I was just astonished. Like, oh, you have a book that explains these cards. You've gone into anthropological explanations and sociological explanations and wow, spiritual, wow, it just blew my mind. And I was clearly very astonished. And so I had a conversation with her later and she said, please don't use the book unless you really have to. Just stay doing what you're doing because that's really the point. But of course, who doesn't want to read all those interpretations? So that's, of course, I have to read all the interpretations. I love them because I appreciate other people's insights and perspectives, which is why I have so many decks, because everybody has a different, and this is why I love what you're writing. So I encourage all of you, anyone wants to make a deck, I wish I could, because that's on my list of things to do. Think it would be fun. I'm not an artist, however, and I do think art is a primary way that we see. Art is the language of the soul. Music is the language of the soul, right? There's ways that we connect with the soul through language and music and symbols. Anybody else have really strange dreams last night, or continuing, like every time you'd wake up from a dream, you go back and then you're in another wild dream? Thank you, Brittany. Yeah, it was like one after the other, and they were just so intense. And I woke up every 2 hours, and partly I was waking up because it's hot and I have to have the windows closed and because of the smoke. But whoo, yeah, okay, Sheena too. All right. So here's the thing. Dreams. That's always important, and it actually relates to what we're going through right now with the Venus retrograde. So without further ado, I suppose I should just go ahead and get started with that. So let me get that chart. I'm going to actually use the chart of the, I don't actually know. I had to intuit the timing of the Venus retrograde. But I did a pretty darn good job, because I know, if I do say so myself, because I know that I know the degree that it was going to be. And so I was able to intuit. So let me move this over so I have a little bit more. So for those of you who are new to astrology, never fear. This may look a little, but it's like a piece of music for me. It just allows me to dive in, and there are different notes that want to be played different ways, but we get to bring our own interpretation to how that music feels and sounds. So you can see there's a conglomeration of planets over here. The interesting thing about this chart, I mean, there's like many interesting things about this chart, but on July 22nd, so Saturday, and I made this for 7:03 p.m. A case could be made that it might have been 6:57 p.m., but I just made it for 7:03 because then I got as close as I could to the degree of the retrograde. I just happened to pick the time intuitively when the sun was going into Leo, 000. That felt pretty good. I was like, okay, so this Leo energy is really important right now. So I'm still in my contemplation about Leo. Some of you have some really strong Leo in your charts. Yeah. So, just being in contemplation about that, and really considering, as there's a planet retrograding through the entire sign of Leo. So Venus starts at 28 and moves all the way back. Well, not all the way back, but it moves back quite a ways into Leo and then moves back again. That's a lot of Leo energy. And it's also a lot of reflection energy. It's a lot of review energy. Like I said in my email, there's always an opportunity for review with any retrograde planet. Take note if you wish. If you choose to read on the internet about Venus retrograde, you will get a lot of information. Most of it will be quite, how shall I say this? Shadowy in nature. Okay. So there's nothing wrong with that. I think understanding the shadow, and I was really thinking about that this morning. It's good to have the warnings and where you can be cautious. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But what I'd like to say, honestly, today, is that your relationship with Venus is what is most important here. So your relationship, not just with the planet, but with what Venus represents. So what does Venus represent? First thing we're going to think of is love. We're going to think relationship, beauty, music, money, self-esteem, self-confidence. Those are the kinds of things that we're going to focus on. So really, and for those of you who are Taurus or Libra, or like in my case, I have both, this is a particularly powerful, and I'm going to point out there's one person who I won't mention by name, but she knows who she is. who has Taurus and Leo together. This is a particularly powerful retrograde. And what is the relationship you have with, this is for everyone, relationship you have with love? What is the relationship you have with art, music, beauty, money? What is the relationship you have with yourself? You know, I know I tend to bring things back to yourself, but I use astrology as a self-reflective personal development tool, right? So it's wisdom comes when we have relationships with. So some of the things that actually have witnessed firsthand. So I will say, yes, I can solidly get behind these recommendations. Please don't buy a house if you don't have to during a Venus retrograde. If you do, fine, no problem. Just like you would do during a Mercury retrograde, just make sure you've had your inspections and you've looked at the mortgage very carefully so there's no surprises. You know, look at all the details. It's, you know, it's not the same as a Mercury retrograde, but it's a big purchase. And I would say, you know, again, I have that little skeptical side of me and I want to see it. I want to see it and I have seen it. So I'm just saying, you don't have to buy a house. You know, if you do, great, fine, buy one, just enjoy it. And just, you know, look at things over as much as possible. Relationships. Let's just go there. There is nothing wrong with starting a relationship during Venus retrograde. I will just tell you from experience and witnessing other people, you'll just need to come back and revisit a few things. You may not see the fullness of the relationship till after the retrograde. Really? And that's, I mean, you could make a case for any relationship. You start at any time. You know, you go 6 months in and you see a different person sometimes. During a Venus retrograde, that's just going to be a little more heightened. So, yes, I will just say that. The other thing is, and again, if you meet someone, please don't worry. There is nothing to worry about. Just enjoy. And after October 7th, the retrograde stops a lot earlier, but the shadow is there until October 7th. Just after October 7th, just take a look with new eyes. So you don't, just take it slow. How's that? Just take it slow. That's probably the best way to say it. If you're in a relationship, I was reading this and I'm not sure about this. We'll have to see. I was reading about relationships and it was saying if you're in one, which I am, but if you're in one, it said, don't expect things to go smoothly. I thought, really? I don't agree with that one. Not that I disagree. I mean, how can I disagree? I don't know. It might be true for some people, but just to have that, so like, if you're in a relationship, it's not going to go smoothly during Venus retrograde. You know, I don't like that. I don't like that sort of like, you know, what I would say is be mindful of your relationship. What's happening in your relationship? How could you relate better? How could you, you know, what's happening there? Just be curious. Now, does it help that I have Venus in Gemini? Sure. That's a be curious kind of sign. So yes, but I do think really, truly, I do think that just being open and being curious while you're in relationship. Now, that's partner relationship. Now, friendships definitely come under the auspice of Venus. And what I think I like to look at during a Venus retrograde, and this is something I've done for a long time, is what friendships feed my soul? What friendships nourish my heart? And that's really important to know anyway. So why not take every 18 months, this happens where Venus will retrograde. So why not? Why not take this time to do some review? And a lot of times, you know, again, we got to come back to ourselves. How am I being in relationship? How am I being in relationship? This is so interesting. Okay. So in my mind, it's very interesting. If we start to layer in the Leo part, Leo, for all of its, creativity, romance, power, love, children, inner children, all of the things that Leo can be, community, family. There's this part of Leo that I think is important, and I don't know if everyone talks about it, is confidence, leadership, right? So what is my relationship with my confidence, or my being a leader or not being a leader? And you don't have, and what does being a leader mean? I mean, being a leader could just mean living your life with integrity, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be a certain way. So I think it's just taking on those questions and being very curious, again, interested in what is my relationship with my confidence. So for those of us who are maybe a little concerned about certain things that require us to stand on stage, for instance, or be in front of a camera, or or both, perhaps. Not that this is personal or anything. This is a really good time to deepen into how you feel and what is it, if there is this fear of any of those things, or fear of standing up for yourself, or fear of standing up for the truth, or fear of standing in your power, fear of standing in your strength, in any way, shape, or form. How can you gently encourage yourself to be in more alignment with your true, genuine, confident nature? I really do believe that it's possible for all of us to have that. So what do you need to do for that? What is coming to you? What is right for you? So the other thing that stands out to me with Leo is the relationship with animals. Sagittarius, Leo, and Aries, but a lot of Sagittarius and a lot of Leo have a lot to do with the animal kingdom. And so I'm going to kind of move in that direction for a moment and just say, relating to this amazing earth through the animals. And for those of you that have your own animals, this could be a time to look at your relationship with them, and maybe what would make it better, what would make it deeper, what would make it more fun. Okay, so let's get to another part of Leo. Fun, pleasure, fun, play. Okay, so I think this may be why the Coyote card showed up, because Leo, if you were going to pick, I mean, every sign has its possibility for play and pleasure and fun. Don't get me wrong, everybody can do that. But if you had to pick one sign that gets very much the play, pleasure, fun, it's going to be Leo, with Sagittarius coming in a close second. All right. But again, every sign has its own thing, even Virgo. Virgo gets a bad rap sometimes, but it's just Virgo's just trying to rein in a little bit of the fun because Leo has gone way over the top. Okay. So Virgo's just there to say, okay, kids, let's all come back. We need to do the next activity now. And the Leos are like, but how do we find fun? Where do we find joy? What is our relationship with joy? What is our relationship with fun? Okay. So a lot of this is, this is for everyone. This is for everybody. Now, where it gets interesting is where it falls in your own chart, because then you're like, ooh, that's even deeper way to look at where that relationship, what's happening. Now, in the collective chart, fascinatingly, this all begins in the 8th house. which is the house of the mystery, the house of intuition, the house of magic. It also happens to be the house of mortgages, financial investments. So far be it from me to do any financial predicting, but hey, don't you worry about your money right now. The best thing I heard over the weekend from someone here is to look at how you are spending your money and to look at how your financial plan might be refined, shall we say. Okay. The eighth house, I don't generally focus on the money aspect of the eighth house, but it is a real thing. I will tell you, having a lot of planets in the eighth house, looking at money, where it comes from. It's not about income. And this is really important. This particular money source in the eighth house is usually investments, or, it could be like rental income, or it could be inheritance income, or it could just be the lottery. It could just be coming from somewhere else in the world. So it's not so much about your earned income, but it is about money flow. So I do want to, you'll see a lot out there on Venus retrograde and money. And that's great. If there's something that speaks to you, I say yay. And I'll just encourage you to look at your relationship with money. What is your relationship with money and receiving money? Now that's an interesting way to look at it. What is your relationship with receiving money from unearned income? So in other words, what is your relationship with receiving money that you haven't earned? Now there's a good question to be an inquiry with. What does that mean, earned? You can go deeper with that. Did you earn it in this lifetime? Possibly you earned it in a previous lifetime and it's coming back to you. But if you have an attachment to having to earn your money, which I do, I'll be honest, as a Taurus, I have an attachment to that. Maybe I earned it in a different lifetime. I'm happy if there's going to be a windfall, feel free, bring it on. I'll happily receive it. And if my need to earn it is going to block it, then I'm happily going to say, I'm sure I earned it in a previous life. So that would be my spin. But I do think, I'm being a little glib, but I do think it's important to look at how we receive money, how we receive any resource. And so expanding out a little bit beyond money and into the eighth house is all, resources, including what's the earth's resources, by the way. So there's another way to look at this, which is how are we utilizing the earth's resources, and could we be doing a better job? Oh, yes, I think we could. So this particular retrograde might have us looking finally, maybe, at how we might do things differently with the earth's resources. That's probably a lot to pin on one Venus retrograde, right? But I feel like there's something there that looking at, we have so much richness. I feel, I can't speak for everyone, but I feel like, my gosh, anytime there's a blue sky right now, I feel the richness of that. Anytime, I can go to the store and get food, there's a richness in that. I could get food from my garden. That's even better. Not that I grew any food this year, but if I could, I would. Understanding the richness of the earth. That is a very eighth house, like what's coming up from the earth, what's coming up underneath the earth. There's more to be said there, and there's other places we could go, which I'm not going to go right now, but understanding your resources. And on a deeper, more spiritual level, or even more spiritual level, I guess, is how do you resource with the source? Okay, so this kind of comes back to what was going on in the chat earlier, even about the Coyote card. Like, what are the insights? How are you resourcing with source? What are you receiving? And can you receive, how are you receiving? I guess a better question. How are you receiving the resources of spirit? How are you receiving the resources of love, divine love, human love, animal love, nature love. How are you receiving these resources? This is a really big deal, in my opinion, with this chart. So those are my thoughts on that. You'll notice there are a lot of other planets in the 8th house. So this could be a very magical time. So you might also want to look at your relationship with your intuition. How might you develop it further? Your relationship to what is magic? What is magic? David and I had that conversation the other day. He's like, how do you define magic? I'm like, that's a good question, because everything is magic to me. Like that's very hard to differentiate for me, because the world is magical. This life is magical. Everything is magical for me. Now, I suppose you could really press me on some specifics and I might find something that didn't feel so magical. But truthfully, understanding your relationship to the magical realms, what if the fairies want to come out and play? I mean, why not? It's Leo. And, maybe what if they're like knocking on your door and they're like, hey, what are you doing? We want to play. Can you see us? How do you see us? How do you feel us? Okay, so that leads to another, with all of this energy in the 8th house. What is your relationship with the spirit realm? What is your relationship with those that have passed? This is not, I mean, again, a lot of these, like Mars is going to move pretty quickly. The moon will be gone very soon. So it's not like all of this is going to be hanging out in the 8th house. But since Venus retrograde is starting in the 8th house and Mercury is in the 8th house, in this chart, what is there somebody you want to talk to on the other side? If there is, this is a really good time. It's you could wait till Samhain or Halloween. You could wait till Scorpio time, but you could also do it now. It might be a little lighter now. You might be able to get some information that might be supportive for you from the other side. I would say, at least 3 or 4 times a week, maybe not every day, but during a session, someone wants to come in and chat. I'll be very curious to see if more people want to come in and chat from the other side during Venus retrograde with this chart. Now it's, again, everybody's chart is different and everything is different wherever it is in your chart. But with the collective chart, I'm curious if this will open a bit of a portal for those on the other side to make themselves more present, more known, give us more information, or share with us love. Again, it's Leo. So let's not forget that there's a lot of love here. There's a lot of heart here. And so be curious. I want to be curious about that part of it. You'll notice in this chart that Venus is at 28 degrees. The moon at the time of the retrograde was at 28 Virgo. North Node was at 29 Aries, and Pluto's at 29 Capricorn. That's a lot of very late degree. Helme is at 28 Libra. Neptune, this was about the dreams, actually 27 Pisces. So it's kind of like, this is a snapshot, right? This is a moment in time when the retrograde started. What it does is it kind of tells us like, oh, these are the elements that are present during this particular retrograde. It does have an interesting pinpoint at Neptune. I think you can see the upside down kite here. It's not exact, but it does point down to Neptune in Pisces. And the moon, is very quickly moving. So it doesn't, it's already moved on into Libra pretty far at this point. Pluto is very slow moving. Uranus is pretty slow moving. Neptune is very slow moving. So this pinpoint here, reminding us of our visionary capabilities, our psychic capabilities, what's being communicated through our dreams. I started off asking you about your dreams, and last night was super intense. And every night is super intense as far as I can tell, but I just kept waking up after each. So I woke up every 2 hours because the dreams were so intense that, my body just, I guess I didn't want to stay in them for too long. But the last dream was me trying to process a whole bunch of things in one dream. That is the beauty of our incredible subconscious, is that if we don't have time to process out here in this realm, we'll get process done in our dream time. And it's not always comfortable because a lot of what I've had to process is pretty uncomfortable. So the dreams are, I want to call them nightmares. Some are pretty straightforward nightmares, but some are just super uncomfortable dreams, right? And those dreams are pretty clear to me that they're me needing to process. There's also the possibility, and so especially during this Venus retrograde time. So remember, the shadow is all the way till October 7th. So we've got a long time. Prophetic dreams. And what does that mean? Prophetic. Does it mean this is going to happen? So I just read a post on Facebook by Denise Lin, who is a teacher. She's amazing. I've been, had her books since probably the 80s or before. And she is, for those of you that don't know Denise Lin, she's part Native American and some other wonderful cultures. And she blends a lot of really positive thinking with looking at the shadow and also doing some shamanic practices as well. And I've seen her in person and done some past life work, which blew my mind, right? I think I've mentioned her before because of that. Anyway, I saw a post today on Facebook where she was having really challenging dreams, and she woke up with a heaviness, like just pressing in on her about one of her kitties. And her husband, she woke her husband up, and her husband said, "Honey, you're always worrying about the kitties. I'm sure they're fine. I'm sure they're fine." So they get up the next morning and they're fine. The kitties are fine. But later that day, she heard her cat screaming in extreme pain, ran outside. All the dogs, I think there are 4 dogs, ran to protect the cat because that coyote had come into the yard, and it was during the day. It wasn't at night. It was during the day, and grabbed the cat and had the cat in its mouth. And the dogs went after the coyote. Every single dog went after the coyote to protect their little kitty sister. And anyway, Denise Lin was saying in the post, and I think this is the most important thing, she was concerned about her cat. She woke up concerned. And then she realized when this was happening that the dream was a way for her to be able to understand that there's a link between spirit. Again, I mean, this is her work, but we're always being reminded, right, that there's this link between spirit and what's happening. And the best thing she could do was trust that all would work out in the way it was meant to, which is really hard when you're looking at your cat who you think is going to die and who's barely breathing, and you're wrapping your cat in a blanket, holding your cat, taking it to the vet, which I guess where they live is like almost an hour away for an emergency vet. And she said that because she had that prophetic dream and that feeling, she was able to remain more calm. And she thinks that really helped her kitty, regardless of what was going to happen, right? On the car ride, she's holding the kitty close to her heart. And they get to the vet, and it turns out the kitty is going to be okay. I mean, there's trauma there, but physically the kitty is going to be okay. That's amazing. But she really thinks that the prophetic experience, the being kind of, given something that made her a little more aware, helped her find her way through this. And it was a way for her to understand that life happens, right? There's always things that are happening. How are we going to navigate through this? Now, I tell you this story because that probably wouldn't be me. I wish it would be me. That calmness, I wish that could be me. But truthfully, if I look at who she is and the tools and all the things that she does in her life to become that person, to be living her way, her path, that to me is admirable, and that to me is a vision to hold for whatever we're going through in our lives. So yes, I will type her name in here for you, Denise Lynn, Linn. So I tell you that story because, Neptune is that planet of the higher divine love. It's the planet of prophetic dreams. It's also the planet of our visions. It's also the planet of illusion. If like in this story, she's obviously her writing is much more eloquent than my even retelling of this. But if she had spent her day in worry and concern and amped up her system and was, not in a healthy place when this happened, that might have been had a different outcome. But again, this trusting, this knowing, trusting that. And the other thing she did say, and I will say this also, I felt this was an important thing. Just because we have a vision or an intuition that something bad is going to happen doesn't mean it's going to be bad in the bigger picture. We may have a concern, a worry, a fear. A lot of us live in that a lot of the time because of the way the world is right now. So this is, we're amping up our adrenal system every time we go into that space. So how can we live with knowing that the magic of the universe, divine spirit, divine love, however you interpret that, is going to give us little clues to help us sort through things? How can we live that way and not have our adrenals? I mean, and I say this to myself because unfortunately, I know this one really well. This is part of my learning. How can I learn to live in more trust? How can I learn to live with more that the universe is going, things are going to happen. How can I move through that? So I read this post this morning, but when I woke up from these dreams earlier, so pre-reading that post, I had a lot of downloads come in. That's something else that could easily be happening right now. And they were showing me some of the tough things that were on in their way. And it wasn't about fear. It wasn't about like me making them up. It's just like the reality of what is going to happen with certain things that are going on right now. Now, I don't know how they're going to work out. I don't have all the details, but it was as if I was being shown, look, this is going to happen and it's all going to work out for the best. So please relax. That was the message I was getting when I woke up. Please relax because you're going to need some energy when the time comes. And if you amp yourself up now, you're going to be depleted. And so this is for me personally. By the way, this doesn't have anything to do with any collective world situation or anything, so don't worry. It was just something in my own personal life. So I was like, okay, I need to pay attention to that. That's really, really important. So this kite, this pinpoint, a kite in astrology, the point here at the top of the kite, it gives us a really strong message. So how can I deepen into divine love? How can I trust? How do I trust my intuition? How can I utilize and navigate my intuition in the highest and best way? How am I, again, if you look at the other points, there's life, death, transformation, and healing. There's the unexpected events, but there's also freedom. Okay. And there's also expression of full self and authenticity. And the point that is, quote unquote, the anchor point is the most transient because it's the moon and it's moving very quickly. So again, this is not a prediction that anything is happening in your life that is challenging. It is just an example of how to utilize the interpretation here in this chart. Listening to our intuition is incredible. I mean, it's up here in this part of the chart. It's down here in this part of the chart. There is every reason to continue our journeys of deepening our trust in our intuition, deepening our trust in our guides, deepening our trust in our source, however it is that you choose. And like there's a wonderful member of our community here today who's offering some really powerful retreats that do just that. So the reminder here is, how am I individually, how am I taking care of myself in order to deepen my relationship with self and source? And yes, we can play. We need to laugh, according to the Coyote and according to Leo. We need to deepen into our creativity, according to all the wands that we pulled, reminders, right? Deepen into our play, our creativity, our laughter. And because of where it all falls in the chart, deepen into our intuition and the listening to that intuition. So I think one of the questions I would pose for this time is, how do you want to play with your intuition right now? How do you want to dive into the creativity of listening to your dreams? How can you use art, even if you're not an artist, but how can you use art to pull forth some really powerful wisdom that wants to be shared? This would be a fantastic time to do some mandala work, where you create your own mandalas. And, you know, this community has so many resources. So I'm going to just invite, particularly because you're all here on the call, if you want me to include anything you're offering this summer in the follow-up email, will you just send it to me, let's say by 5 o'clock? I probably won't send this out till 5. So if you could send it to me by 4 o'clock this afternoon or 5 o'clock this afternoon, I'll include it in the replay. So if anyone's offering something in it, it doesn't have to be online, it could be in person, but whichever format, if it's something that's going to help us deepen into our relationship with self and to play with our intuition, or to be creative in our connection, or just to deepen again into that relating to love, self-love and other love, all of that would be wonderful. And for those of you that are listening beyond this, if you have something and you would like to share that with our community, please send it along and I'll do my best to get that in a future replay. But for those of you that are here right now, I already know some of you are offering things, so I'd like to be able to include that. All right, so that's a lot of information and I'm pretty excited. I know it will unfold as it needs to. And again, coming back to trust. Can I trust? How can I trust? How is it that I trust? How is it that I trust the safety, the protection, the guidance, the love of this universe to support me in my highest creative expression of soul and healing? All right, I'm going to end the recording here, and I'll jump back to me saying goodbye. And then I'm going to stop the recording, but I have to figure out how to do that. So hold on, hold the phone. Very good to see all of you. And then I'll be here to answer questions. Hold on just one second.